I've done some straight up reviews of the Xpeng, that's actually how you're meant to pronounce it, or Xpeng in this part of the world. But I haven't lived with it for a week in the new facelift version till now, and it can do some pretty remarkable things. I wasn't sure if it was going to stop there as we approach the Liffey. Can it actually kill you as well? Let's see that question. No. That's good to know. Welcome to Nobby on Cars. Hey. Whoa. So there's dimensions: 4.7 meters long, 2.9 meter wheelbase, 571 boot space, but that is not what this look at the facelift version of the G6 is all about. But the good news then is, if you're actually considering one of these cars versus something like a Model Y, I'm going to be able to tell you what it's actually been like to live with for a week. With everything, kids, dogs, you know the story. And I'll tell you some of the things that are a little bit strange and unnatural to me, like why is there no frunk underneath this bonnet? And this one is the performance model, so twin motor, although the long range also has that. It has tons and tons of standard equipment. Another thing from my living with the G6 for a week, especially compared to a Model Y, is there not more storage space underneath the floor? Because Tesla, you take this thing out and you'd never use it again because you have this huge well down below. You don't get that in the G6, unfortunately. The rear wiper is tucked under here, but it barely covers half the screen. And it rains a lot in Ireland, so that bugged me on my week driving the G6. There's also a camera here for looking out the rear with the rear view mirror. So you can have a standard mirror or you can have a digital mirror, only from the second trim up. So long range and the performance gets it, but the standard doesn't. During the last week or so driving around with my kids in the back, they didn't moan any more than they usually do. In fact, I think they quite enjoyed the rear space in the back of the G6 because there's loads of leg room, the glass floods in from the roof, and they've got lots of space. The leg room, as I mentioned, is almost a 2.9 wheelbase, which is massive. The G6 has some of the fastest charging speed on the planet when it comes to electric cars right now. So the facelift version can do well over 400 kilowatt DC charging if you can find the right charger. Now, I don't think we have chargers that fast in Ireland right now. The other thing that's as important, if not more important, is the charging curve. And I was connected to it was a split charger, so it was 70 kilowatt. This maintained 70 kilowatt right up until almost 90% state of charge, and only then started to trail off. So this car, if you find the fastest charging speed available, will go from 10 to 80% in 12 minutes. Okay, that's still more than putting a tank of diesel in, but not much more. And it has vehicle to load. However, it doesn't have vehicle to grid or vehicle to home. And things like Kia are coming with that built into the car now. So that's one area that is maybe slightly lacking. But even the smaller battery, entry level, still gets ridiculously fast charging speed, well over 300 kilowatt. And that is impressive. And then you get the app, so you can move the car, you can remote park it, you can precondition the interior to get it toasty, you can lock the car, you can find its location, you can open the boot and the windows, and you can do lots of things like check the tire pressure, put it into essentially a camp mode, there's a toddler mode, there's a pet mode, and it'll show you your average consumption as well. And you can even hook up the trailer, which will cost you more, but still, as apps go, it's very impressive. Probably day 2 or 3 into my week-long journey with the G6, I probably wanted to look at myself, like everyone does. And I opened this part, and that's fine. You get a very large mirror for looking at yourself. But, I mean, you should be paying attention when you're driving, but we've all possibly been there, even stuck at a red light where you check on a spot on your head or whatever. This comes down, so you really can't see out. Dual charging pads. Excellent. Glove box has an NFC card buried down here. Now, some people have commented that the last pre-facelift version essentially wasn't as reliable when it comes to that. I haven't found any issues, at least with the app anyway. That just connects. These vents, you can now manually move them. You can also manually swipe across and make your assistant larger or the map larger. And yes, everything is behind the screen, and you might get annoyed saying, "Hey Xpeng,
hey,
turn the headlights on."
Low beam headlights are on.
You will literally do that for everything. Going into a car wash, you'll ask it to fold in the mirrors because it will take you so long to find it in the menu in here. And there's no point in me doing 20 minutes of going through this screen. Trust me, there's lots of stuff. There's Android Auto and there's CarPlay. But there's so much fine tuning that you can do with this vehicle, like adjusting the sensitivity of the brake pedal, which wasn't great in the last version. It's definitely better now. Adapting pet mode, adjusting how much you want the boot to open in case you live in an underground car park. They've just put everything into this, and you need time to go through it and adjust all the settings. There's massaging seats that are very comfortable. There's a mindful space for when you're charging, and you can activate it.
Adjusting the seat and other cockpit settings
the
to a
seats
comfortable state for you.
and recline for your passenger or both of you, whatever you're into. And then you can pick the relaxation music that comes on.
I like to practice lying down,
Oh yeah.
perhaps on a yoga mat,
Oh yeah.
or a couch or a bed.
So if you like some nice lady to talk
So just settling into
intimately with you, you can do that.
Let's start by finding a comfortable posture.
Maybe not so much with him. Would you like to activate leisure and relax, or how about a waist massage or a long haul relax? They're all available in here, and that's what I mean. You can spend a long time you-know-whatting around with your Xpeng. Despite it being a dirty, rainy week, that camera actually performed pretty well, and you can just flick it and change it to a standard. And you get this screen that's not ridiculously big compared to that one. I do like in particular that it has a red arrow that tells you to stop at the traffic lights. It seems obvious, but it's just another layer to maybe make you not get into trouble. And there's a DVR that you can record things in the Sentry mode. It does feel like Xpeng have copied Tesla's homework. But is that really the worst thing in the world? And there's no glove box. That is just strange. I can't 100% confirm, but in the pre-facelift, I'm pretty sure you could open the doors by accident when the car was moving with the buttons. You definitely can't do it in this version. I've tried it. And I don't want to say categorically you could in the last one, but I do remember a child getting overzealous with the button and lots of expletives being performed. What is also very impressive is just how much standard equipment you get on the car. So NVIDIA is the processing chip. You get heat pumps across all the ranges. In fact, if you go onto the Xpeng website and have a look at the different trims and the long range versus the performance and the standard car, you'll see there's just lots of dots because it has everything. I mean, there's a slightly different texture of leather in the entry version of the car. And as I said, you don't get that digital rear view mirror. But you will be hard pressed to find many other things that are missing from all versions of the car. In general though, I found the ADAS stuff pretty easy to live with. The distraction monitor could be a bit annoying. Once I turned off the overspeed, I was happy enough compared to BYD, which always just needs more things turned off. And the 360 overview camera that you get is just brilliant. The clarity, the wide angles of the view, it all makes your life easy, and the car can also park itself, and you can use the app to do that, as I demonstrated at the very start of the video. So if you're someone who doesn't like parking in tight spaces, or you've got a really tight garage, that will hopefully make your life a lot easier. Something else I pondered during my week with the car is the price. So it starts from €42,000 after all subsidies plus delivery charges. And with MSL, they can be, well, spicy. Sometimes they throw in a service pack or some tires in that premium as well. And this performance version, well, it's not particularly cheap. You're talking €54,500. And white is a standard colour, but most of the other ones are about €800. And there's a black edition version you can get, and that's another €1,200. But you can only get that with the all-wheel drive performance, which this car is. But what I like about it is they've got something for everybody. So if you need to tow an item, for example, it'll do 1,500 kilos braked, and you can pay for a tow bar on the car. That's an additional cost as well. But the point is, if you want a standard rear-wheel drive version of this car, and it will still be very nicely kitted out, you can compete easily with the Model Y or things like the Nissan Ariya and similar cars from Volkswagen and Audi and many others that will offer probably more spec for the price. All versions of the G6 use an LFP battery as well. It's 68.5 in the standard version of the car and 80.8 in the long range and performance version. Weirdly, the brake horsepower figures vary slightly. I've one source that say this performance version has about 440 horsepower, and then the spec sheet I have from Xpeng themselves says this version has 486 brake horsepower. And the standard car, 251. I'm not sure if that's based on state of charge, being above a certain factor, or what exactly. Either way, I can verify this is not a slow car. So today I'm filming, it's a Sunday. Tomorrow this car goes back, that'll be Monday. And I've been thinking to myself, what will I miss about this car when it goes back? And just the ease of driving for starters, because it's just a very, very simple car to drive. It's got tons of power. I'll miss the fact that no one's moaning when we're going out in it first thing in the morning for the school run because it's warm and toasty, whether I've forgotten to time it or just I'm doing it remotely on the app. The kids have all the connectivity with their music that they want. I do think the screen in the Model Y is a brilliant feature, and that will definitely make people happier. I also find that this is a Chinese car that resembles, at least, what we're used to in Europe. And by that I mean the brake feel, the handling, the steering. It just feels like something that has come from Europe. Taking the BYD C-Line 7, for example, I just felt there was so much more that chassis could do. Yes, it had this crazy performance on paper, but that really didn't translate into a particularly enjoyable car to drive. Now, look, this is just a family electric SUV, so it's not exactly a barrel of laughs either, but it just feels a little bit more in tune to what I'm used to. So again, yes, they have possibly cogged Tesla's homework in lots of ways, but that's starting from a good foundation. And I mean, I'm only half joking. People should be entitled to buy whatever car they want, but there's no doubt people who would love a Y and just can't bring themselves to do it, and then some people that won't care, and for the people in between, maybe this is for you. And it's an EV, so yep, you put your boot down and you really feel a shove of torque. I mean, this car has, depending on which source you want to listen to, not far off 500 brake horsepower. It's barely 5 seconds, I think it's actually just under 5 seconds to 60. So it has huge legs in terms of its speed and what it can do on a motorway. I love that when you turn corner, you get a blind spot camera that's really sharp and really clear. It does get a little bit noisy or distorted, as you might call it, at night time, but really it's absolutely fine. Something else on the Tesla note, you don't get things like Netflix, but you do get integrated Spotify, so you can scan your QR code on your phone and not have to actually use your phone then. But you know, I can talk about speed and how quick the car is and 0 to 100 kilometer time and all that stuff. It's not really relevant. This is a family car. Do you want the performance version? That's a personal preference thing for you. Will the standard version have loads of power? 100% it will. For again, what is a family car? There's the potential to get carried away with the performance. And yes, it's got lots of power. It probably isn't as good to drive as a Model Y performance. Again, the driving dynamics are just a little bit better again in that thing. But at least then you're not spending mid-50s on the car, unless you really want the performance version of it, if that's the kind of driver you are. Bearing in mind that it's not quite as sharp to drive as a Model Y performance, the biggest question for you at the end of this video is, should you just settle, if that's the right word, for the standard long-range version and save yourself at least €5,000? All I can tell you in my summary of the G6 is that I have genuinely lived with it for a week. I've done the school runs, the shop runs, the into work runs, the motorway runs, and all the different kind of runs you might expect to do. A little bit thirsty, but that's possibly partly down at least to my right foot. And it's not the best time of year in terms of being kind to batteries, but it's comfortable, it's spacious, it's got all the tech you want. It's not a Tesla for people who want to avoid them for whatever reasons you might decide. And as I've probably said before on the channel, for a company that are barely around 12, 13 years, in fact, I think they're still not yet making a profit. It's remarkable the quality of car that they have produced here. And on the financial side of things, you can read different opinions on the internet, but Volkswagen, who are one of the biggest automotive companies in the world, bought $700 million worth of Xpeng a couple of years ago. And you'd imagine their accountants did some poking around before they signed the check. Whether you want to actually go electric or whether you want to support what they're doing in China, that's a question, or a couple of questions at least, for you. All I can do is show you around the car today. And for my week with the G6, it's damn good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.